Coming up next, Team Liquid versus LGD Forever Young.
And get a bunch of kills as LFY that game.
Well, here we go. Some highlights of this match. It was a pretty chaotic early game. I think this was our first blood as GH kind of got chased down. The one-and-done fissures we talked about secured the kill as they kind of 360 no-scope it.
Yeah, all credit to Yao this game, honestly. I mean, you can see here again, just like playing very aggressive, getting a lot done in the early game, and doing the best that he could with a support bristleback is what ended up happening in that early game, right? Yeah. He was stuck at the same net worth and levels as the Chen for the vast majority, and that 6K lead so early on for Liquid.
And in a lot of these scenarios, you feel like the bristleback is perfect in a tri-lane on tri-lane type situation because he returns so much damage, but the rocket barrage just does so much, and it shut down the bristle early. It was one of the gank attempts early on where the 3-on-1 against Miracle Shadow Fiend. He kills 2 before going down. That was one of the moments that really shifted the momentum in terms of allowing Liquid to have a safe early game.
Yeah, they just, like, if you're a mid, can't really, like, initiate the kill, right? If he doesn't have, like, a leading stun, that means you have to Fissure just to then close the gap with the Witch Doctor, and there was no chain stun going with the cask, so he was still able to get off all of his razors, and and all of his damage onto the Razor.
Yeah, 15-5. Once Liquid had the momentum, you can see the aggression just diving into the Tier 2 with Dream Coils. And it's another easy team fight.
I mean,
here.
This is where the game looked over, right?
Yeah.
You were like, all right, this game is 100% done. But then that's when we got our battle back into the Roche Pit, which is what gave LFI a little bit of a second chance at this game.
Hey, and here it is. It was Liquid in the pit. Monet with the repel. He runs in at the perfect time. Dream Coil comes out. He gets the GA, finishes off Roche, and grabs the Aegis. Then the rest of the fight just starts to deteriorate for Liquid. They start to retreat. The Shadow Fiend gets left behind. And without that Shadow Fiend in the front lines, it is LFY's fight to take.
I didn't catch that Fissure really in the moment, but you could see Afu with almost the perfectly timed block to separate everyone else from the Aegis, and that's what gave it over to Monet. And this is when they were trying to play aggressive, but they're able to grab like Kuro, and that's kind of it, you know? Like, they don't have an initiator, really, on the side of LFY, unless you have, like, you don't really want to blink dunk people to start off every fight as something, a shaker, you know what I mean? You want something a little bit easier than that. They just had the brute force style of, we're going to approach all your buildings and take them, but Liquid never took that disastrous fight during the Aegis. They just said, okay, fine, we'll let you guys take all your buildings, but we're still going to out-farm you.
Yeah, and this was the big fight here that Liquid able to come out ahead on. It was pretty chaotic, or it was just the 3-for-3. I'm sorry, I think I'm misremembering here. This was the really chaotic, pretty even fight where the Omni GA reset things long enough that they were able to get a couple of cleanup kills and pop that Shadow Fiend.
Yeah, but it was still a moment where you think that LFY, with everything that's been happening over the past, like, 5 minutes, they're looking to get up ahead. They don't want to trade evenly. They want to, like, take control of this game. And this is when they secured that last tower that they would even get in this game.
Yeah, you almost wish Ohio was on a little bit more of like a carry-focused core. Of course, he wouldn't have that same amount of farm if he weren't on the Omni because of the lane pressure he puts on, but they had so much farm on that hero, and it felt like in these big team fights, Omni wasn't quite able to do enough, especially in this last one. He got silenced before he could use the GA, and it was pretty brutal. Pretty brutal.
Yeah, and Mind Control, I think throughout this whole game, he didn't get a lot of big, like, flashy moments or anything on the puck, but one thing that he consistently did was all of that creep cutting, right? Just all over the whole map. He played, obviously, very well during these Roche engagements, too, getting off that 3-man coil right there, just helping them to annihilate what hopes were left for LFY.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think you called it absolutely right. A couple of those funky deaths from Liquid in the mid-game, all about creating space to get to those BKBs.
Team Secret versus Complexity Gaming.
Like just a root. You can throw up a silence or something for mid one.
So we have some highlights here from the game. Our first blood drawn by Puppy, the dubious duo of Ancient Apparition CK, and have lived up to the hype through most of this laning stage.
He was staple gunning down here, right? I thought this looked kind of good for Z-Freak, but he was stuck on level 2 for a while because he kept giving all the experience in the lane to move. So like when the Prophet rotates in at level 6, Z-Freak's still level 2.
Yeah. The early game was not bad for Complexity. They never really had a big lead, but they put a lot of pressure on, and they broke even for a while. This little skirmish was kind of awkward as Z-Freak got stuck in the trees here.
Yeah, this is where he actually reality rifts away from the next Pugna Blast, because Moose Soul rings up, and then he just kind of magically dodges it. It was pretty hilarious. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, timed pretty much perfectly for Ace. Hard to say if that's luck or skill in that scenario, but absolutely worked out in his favor. Another one of these mid-fights. I think they kind of grabbed the Death Prophet here, but Puppy had a lot of really close-range Ice Blasts like
Puppy
that.
Was so good.
He just played this. Normally you think of AA as like in the periphery, just lobbing in these long-range ultimates, but he was like a front liner in this game. It felt like a lot of the ice blasts were just right there next door.
And that's where the hero's been skewed to now, right? Like, you want that early force staff. You want the urn, right? Like, urn on AA, that is not supposed to be normal, like back in the day, but that's so standard now because you are involved in the fights. You have Ice Vortex to make yourself run around all over the place. You got to remember that extra move speed.
Yeah.
And you gotta be close to buff up all that magic damage from your teammates and
playing around the cold feet. So this was a moment where it seemed like Complexity might be able to get some momentum. They finished off Roche. The Aegis still went to Secret, but they clean up this team fight. Puppey and Fada just get obliterated, and they end up getting a freebie on the CK as he comes back to life. Ace does make him work for it, so maybe freebie wasn't the right word. He reality rifts out. Yapzor breaks things up with a stun, but of course, the power of Disruptor, there is no running away from Kyle when he's got a position like that.
Yeah, and then this is where they had wrestled back that control of the game. Not having the Aegis sucks, but this Observer Ward is what killed it. You know, they had to play aggressive. They're trying to build off of this momentum they've achieved, but they just get caught out. One ward placed down there. Big slams, big roots.
Yep. No surprise to hear Yapzor, Earthshaker, and incredible performance all in the same sentence, but once more lives up to his reputation with great fissures and a couple of really big Echo Slams.
Yeah, they just had like so much wave push, I guess, just from like the Underlord is really good against Nature's Prophet. He can kind of match that tempo where you can just, you know, you can go around the whole map, obviously. You have global TP. You can just Firestorm down the waves. So there wasn't any there was no early Rax threat up against Secret, which was kind of surprising. I don't know if that was just like very good management from them, just having like the DP there, but Chessie never found that moment where he's just like hitting a tier 3 and you're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do against this guy? And they had no BKB cancel.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why he shouldn't have been able to just be like playing super aggressive, but instead they went for team fights and they failed.
I love the way Fada played this game. I felt like the Underlord was really the perfect pick to tie this whole draft together because it gave Secret this tanky frontliner. Like, look at this fight. He just charged in first. Was sort of the distraction.
Not worried at all.
I know, and he's fine to die in these fights if need be, but you know, it just breaks up the fights and makes it so much harder for Complexity to use their BKBs in tandem. You know, like you almost want to use your BKB aggressively in a lot of those situations, and it seemed like Secret forced them to use their magic immunity defensively in a lot of situations. This was the chaotic team fight where Secret had a pretty big lead. They lost their tier 3 down at that bottom lane of barracks, or the top lane, sorry, on their side of the map, but so many buybacks used by Complexity to make this quote-unquote hold that the economic damage was so significant.
Yeah, it's. I
mean, they held on, but 3 buybacks to save your barracks here is so costly.
I love that play Ace made where he went into fog and then he faked the TP back, so that drove back Chessie, and then he canceled the TP and just blinked right back into that dire base and started slaying people again.
A lot of the fights kind of went that way. You could even see it here where Chessie was hiding in the tree line trying to be the sneaky surprise as they retreat, and then he ends up getting turned on as they scout him out, and that's his buyback that gets forced here. And this moment is the beginning of the end, where you can see Secret absolutely dominating. And, you know, they do lose a couple heroes, sure, but they know how much economic damage they did here.
This was where Ace gets stuck in the trees, has the reality out to some creeps, but yeah, I mean, it never really looked like they were going to take this game after that point, you know what I mean? Like, once they got caught in that Radiant jungle, that game felt like it was over, honestly.
Yeah,
it would have taken a really bad push from Secret for it not to go their way.
Yeah, that team fight was really key. We didn't really get to talk about the Halberd too much, but you mentioned how key that is against the Nature's Prophet. Pretty much
he's literally
all he
useless.
does is right-click. Yeah. So that is the counter to him at this stage of the game when he's got the Orchid and goes for a right-click focused build like this. Looks like we'll see the final team fight here coming out, and this is the one I think Yapzor gets this insane counter initiation kind of partway through this fight.
Yeah.
It's the fissure on 3.
They actually got like pushed up near that shop too and just kind of like clumped in together. I don't know. I feel like this did not look like the Prophet that I see as being most successful. You know what I mean? In like a lot of games, just because I don't know. He played as 5 way more than you expect a Prophet to. Like
coming up next, Evil Geniuses versus Pain Gaming.
And he also outpushes your lane too.
And this was the first big rotation. Tavo was doing great up until this point, and then all of a sudden he rotates in after HFN is dead. He dies here.
Yep.
And then that's just Tavo's early game gone.
This is the beginning of the momentum being lost, right? Your Tiny has so much pressure in the bottom lane, TP's up, unfortunately unable to make anything happen, and then momentum's lost.
And that's the momentum. You're absolutely right. This turns into a tier 1 tower as well, which is even more map control for EG that they already had. And then Sumail just sits mid. They try to get a gank off onto Weeha. That's there's just not much they can do against Sumail. He's just so strong at this point. He power ups the borrowed time. King RD will eventually, I think, go down at the end of this fight. But I mean, Sumail pretty much got away with murder this game, I would say, Brax, in terms of what he was able to find.
Yeah, he definitely did a lot this game.
I mean, he was just so strong. He had a great build-up, too. Went for the medallion after the drum into the Radiance. That did some serious work.
Yeah.
Just
very solid.
Overall, good play, I think, from EG. Misery's play on the Bounty Hunter especially did some really good work after the laning phase, which we were a little bit worried about in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, not a whole lot from the early game. This is another big freezing field. We've seen like 10 of these this game. It's nice to see. We're used to seeing Crystal Maiden die in about 2 seconds, but not this game.
No, he had a great game. A couple of good freezing fields that won them the team fight or two. And at this point, it's just, what can you do? Weeha gets off the ultimate, but it's not going to do enough. They just dive past the buildings. They're so far ahead at 27k, or rather 31k net worth advantage, and they
I
just
feel like we've
destroy
seen
them.
this scenario like 3 times this
Yeah.
game, with EG just diving into the base, killing everyone,
No, like,
team
guys,
fight.
they can't kill us.
Yep, completely one-sided at this point of the game. Pain Gaming have missed their window, and it's just what happens.
Yeah, so pretty rough rest of the game for Pain. They did as much as they could, honestly, in the early stages of the game, shutting down Arteezy, but he was able to get a lot of farm. What did you think about Morphling in general, though? Like, that was the first time we saw it here today, and I thought it looked pretty good. I thought maybe it was going to be a lot worse considering the amount of room that he was given at the beginning of the game, but he did pretty well. What did you think about Morphling in general?
Coming up next, Virtus Pro versus Optic Gaming.
There were just so many beautiful Ravages that just turned the entire game.
I mean, they weren't expecting the Blink Ravage to come out when it did, but
Yep. Okay.
that was the big turnaround. No one died a lot, too. I was surprised.
Yeah, this fight is where I wanted to illustrate like how VP have to take the fights, right? If you jump this gyrocopter, he's not going to get bursted right away. Of course, Omni Slash comes out, they're all grouped up, and they just get annihilated, but if you end up jumping these tanky heroes into the IO, there's always going to be that Tidehunter counter-initiation in the future.
Yeah. And this was a pretty good fight for VP, all things considered, and Ramses just went off. This was, I think, the...
How often do you get a Rampage at
Rampage
25
fight,
minutes and lose the game?
That to me was insane. They lost the fight right after this, I believe. This is where the 3-3 like had the Blink Ravage coming out after this fight, and you could see his Blink was like 100 gold away at this point. He goes down. That's
so
Rampage
close.
for Ramses, and then they take that other fight, and then all of that gold that Ramses just got gives Pycat so much more when he gets the kill, or rather whoever got the kill.
They actually don't kill CC and C when they jump here, and then that sets up the beautiful Ravage from 33.
And Zai was even dead in that fight, but CC jumps a long way in. Pycat has a great call down. Even Peter had a pretty good ulti for the most part too, but then they bursted down Ramses. His spin was over. There's not much he could do. They did plenty of damage to him, and then they were just all falling just shortly thereafter, and Pycat finds that big double.
The
So.
VP just hit a wall where they were unable to burst any of the heroes in Optic Gaming. Gyrocopter got tanky, Tidehunter got super tanky, and they just keep jumping these heroes without the damage to finish them off before the Ravage comes out every time.
So what do you think? I mean, in terms of MVP, we have to talk about Pycat, obviously. Is there anybody else that stands out in your mind?
I mean, I think Pycat in 33, it was definitely...
1-2.
Yeah, it was them this game, the
Yeah.
entire way. They played very well, but they also played very well as a team. So it's hard to point out an individual, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you also have to consider, I mean, even Zai just being there, getting to level 16, helping him out with the side gunner.
Yeah.
Actually, again, we talked about CC and C2, the fact that he got...
Yeah, let's talk about his recovery
Yeah.
in this game, right? He recovered very well in this game. Net worth not at the top of the charts or anything, but still, he's got his basic items, BKB, Orchid. He had everything he needed.
He needed everything. Yeah, exactly. He had everything he needed.
Coming up next, Mineski versus TNC Pro Team.
I mean, like, you
The
can
Raven.
argue you gave him safe lane free farm, and that's all you really need to get somebody like a Gyrocopter into that position.
Oh,
Sam
this
H would have
is
been another... This was the fight, by the way,
Yep.
if you missed this. This was the fight where Sam H was able to get the Kraken chill off when he get RP'd soloed. They turn it into a big 3-man Ravage, and they win the fight, and Raven gets a ton of farm here.
Yep, they
And this
scattered
was
out
a
the
5-for-1.
and they just waited around the corner, expecting it.
It was just great positioning from TNC, and then every fight from that point on was kind of downhill. They would get a kill here or there onto Armel, but Raven was just so impossible to deal with. The BKB item timing, the SNY. His items in general were great. Good itemization coming in from Raven this game.
It was the Raven show.
It really was.
Every team fight.
I gotta say though, you talked about it's hard to not like give it to Sam H or Tim's. I mean, the whole team played well around Raven to make it so he had the space that he had and he had the game that he had.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. He had a fantastic game, right? But then you look at the plays Tim's made this game, fantastic throughout the entire game.
Yes.
And it's just difficult. They all played so well.
Yeah. So a lot of these situations, Exorcism was either not available, it was mana burned away, or he gets it off and then he dies instantly. A rough game for Moon for sure. I mean, pretty much since the beginning of the laning phase where they send the Nyx Assassin there and they just mana burn him.
Yep. Very difficult to come back in a situation like that where your offlaner has no pressure, so it's pretty much a dead part of the map you can't play off of.
Yeah. Right?
And then in the mid lane, you're getting dumpstered by this Nyx mana burning you over and over. And there's really nothing you can do about it.
That's a pretty good word for it. That's what it felt like for Moon. For Nana, a rough game for sure. And TNC with a pretty surprising win, Brax. This is a team, they've kind of struggled over the past few weeks in
Coming up next, VG Gaming versus VGJ Thunder.
It just you're right. Like the synergy just wasn't there. So we can look back. We can look back at a couple of the moments. So in the early stages, Lanham was very successful. The Willow was really good in the tree lines, able to hit the perfect stuns, synced up nicely with Ori, and that part of the game worked well for VG Gaming.
Yeah, and they tried to get this double kill here. Didn't quite get the full duration on the Shadow Run. Maybe he did. He had level 3, but weren't able to kill the Death Prophet. And this is the big crucial fight here. VG Gaming is semi-decent area, but a huge Static Storm and Silence on Dark Willow. I mean, she does nothing in this engagement, and she had quite a bit of farm for a support position here.
Want to give a lot of props to DDC as well. Like those Static Storms, the kinetic fields, like they perfectly split VG.
Yeah, it's really cool too. The Night Stalker with the Disruptor combo. It's a double support that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but what it does do is it guarantees that you're going to get those extra glimpses on people that don't necessarily expect to be seen at nighttime.
Yeah.
And that's an extra kill. It keeps adding up. It's like a bounty hunter.
Yeah. By this point, it was already out of control. Like VGJ, they had all the damage in the world. Lanham was almost singly focused down by DDC at the start of every single fight. He was always controlling him, and this just gave all the freedom in the world to everyone else. Because, like, where's your stun coming out at that point? If Ravage is ineffective, it's Soga.
Yeah, nothing
like
else.
If Dark Willow doesn't exist, it's Ogre.
Yeah, and those two supports are just not big damage dealers. It takes at least like in a team fight context, Dark Willow doesn't do much damage. It's more
Coming
like,
up next, Na'Vi versus OG.
Na'Vi made a moderate mistake, I think, in the team fight there. So
we can watch back now over the game. So this is 14 minutes in, and
this fight looks so good for OG. Initiate on general, looks like a guaranteed death, but Lil had so many saves on Song, actually. That was like the one time he made a bit of a mistake, I think. He played amazing this game.
Yep.
Guaranteed Beastmaster kill, but they were unable to catch the follow-up teleports, so everybody gets out, and no more advantage for OG. Like, between Glimpse and Song, they just controlled so many of these engagements and forced OG to have to play certain ways.
I love how we're watching so many of the good fights for Na'Vi too. Like, this is that moment when, like, Denny should have been, like, completely dead to rights, but it took so much time, and then Crystallize just goes to work.
Yeah, stole a bunch of damage from Jarex there while he was in the air, and then Jarex realizes how hard he hits up plus 100 damage, and he's got Yules, and he's pretty fast, so he just chases everybody down.
Yep. Multiple plasma field charges, he can get off in the fight, so it's that great mix of damage that Na'Vi were able to get throughout the entire series. Like, they were never locked into just one element, especially when that Razor could do more. This for me was the start of, like, the slippery little sucker moment. Like, we thought we had the Morphling, we don't have Jack.
Yeah, they just a little bit late on loading the damage through, and the Ghost Scepter pays off, keeps Resolution alive, and they're able to turn the fight. But even still, every single one of these engagements that went against Na'Vi weren't that great. Another big tub moment here with Na'Vi, or with OG, sorry, dropping...
walking up that hill into a blind area, trying to get the vision. I'm really surprised that Flower was actually doing that, considering not having an Observer and Sentry battle on that hill only 2 minutes before. So it was a little bit odd, to say the least. And then the BKB move of Dendi really causing a lot of problems for Resolution.
Yeah, it's trying to get a kill if possible. I didn't even notice Jarex went in too.
Yeah.
So Jarex sacrificing himself just so they could kill LeBron, and Morphling ends up dying afterwards anyways to the Great Banish.
There's 0.0 second left TP.
A lot of damage output. Not much Rezo can do at that point, especially with the mana drain. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Navi honestly fought very well considering the circumstances. This fight was huge. Picking up Fly at the beginning was a nice grab. Getting Maledict out of there just solved so many problems. They killed S4 right before his ultimate right there. That was crucial. And then at this point, No-Tail's like, oh, I'm by myself. Not good.
Yeah, didn't have enough support. But even the BKB timings were also a little bit odd. Like, they took so much damage at the beginning, and Dendi, like, he didn't even steal that much intel. Like, we didn't have the big Sandy eclipses that were gonna, like, just change the fight, the course of every single battle. It really, it felt like the Crystallized show from Na'Vi in a lot of these fights. He had a good fight, everything was good, and he got that space because of the supports.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I still think Low played amazing. LeBron had a good game also.
Yeah.
But OG definitely looked like the better team, I think. They had better rotations. They turned out kills a lot more often.
Нацизм будет заканчиваться, их еще под байбек Разора можно будет наказать. Погоня, очень больно. Все стоят, как все стоят туда, сейчас упадет метеор камер. Матчи! Боже мой! Они успевают прожать ВКБ. К сожалению, это уже не работает так. И в итоге нужно выкупаться.
Actually punish harder.
I mean, based on how that fight went with their items, they should have done that more often. Like, honestly, if they would have just said, okay, if we can easily trade our BKBs for Song and all of your scary ultimates, totally worth it. That could have been Static Storm, Meteor Hammer, Song of Siren gone instantly. And if they start every fight like that, they'll win the game.
Coming up next, Newbie versus Vega Squadron.
Was actually the hero of the faith, had the ancient apparition. Yeah. But Mugi and SEC just had all the power in the world. And you gave SEC a fantastic start in the early game. And it's the confidence from Newbie at this point. Like, say gets a triple Burrow Strike, it's great for him, but like Newbie had the confidence to even cancel the Dark Rift back home. They knew they could stand their ground, they knew they can continue to force the issue. And KP became a beast, an absolute beast to kill.
Yeah, very survivable. Only thing that made him look a little squishy was Penitence or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Or when all 5 heroes from Vega were attacking him. Yeah. Then he actually looked like a hero you could deal with, but...
just tons of damage dealt by all of the heroes on Newbie's side. They amplify each other, they cover each other, they gank well. It just kind of does everything. Gives them the ability to work against the opponents, and Chronosphere, just a decrep alone just instantly stops a Chronosphere. As long as like Pugna's not standing next to A in the early game, Void does not get the snowball, he doesn't get any of these easy solo kills, just smart movement, and Void just continues to feel like a weak hero. Like I feel like Vega grabbed him because they felt like they needed some team fight control from a carry position, and Void is very often the one grabbed for that. But I feel it's a little bit of a trap. I have not seen a lot of Voids win recently.
It had a lot of dyssynergy, right? Like, when I see the Void pick up, I'm like, oh great, that's a great pick for Newbie. Oh, hang on. Like, it would have worked with the great spill damage and the positioning, repositioning that can come from a DK. It would have worked well with the Epicenter, with the Ancient Apparition. He's just like kind of on the wrong side of the fence. It doesn't work with the Batrider. He can't get the Firefly into the middle. Chen's not going to really help out. Rubik can't really help out. The Gyrocopter's the only one, but that's still it's a huge requirement just for the positioning to be right, because cooldown's not your critical thing, it's the fight cannon.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get that right too, because like, even this fight here, like the Faceless Void jumps the back line, the cooldown's already gone on, but you're not going to have this engagement work. Like, you're back at your tier 4 towers with a gyro, and you're on the front lines with a Void.
Yeah, for Void to work, you have to snowball. You have to get damage items so you can solo kill people, or you need to combo really well with the heroes. They didn't combo well with the heroes.
Yeah.
They couldn't find these easy team fights or kills.
Like, I thought at this moment, like, I thought for a moment they're going to get Boogie, and then KP's just, like, blink and rock them up. And then the Aeon Disc again.
Aeon Disc comes in, that one's an easy kill, then he goes in Chronospheres, somebody else, and just the same thing.
They removed the gyro. At least it was a nice grab up of the Divine Rapier. Like, that was a good moment when they potentially could have saved the game, but then, no. That was it.